The EQLZ 24/7 performance review is finally here. Let's go. Hey, what's going on everyone? My name's Chris. Welcome back to the official WearTesters.com YouTube channel. This is kind of a brand or a new brand that you may have never heard of. On the box though, it does say that they were established way back in 2018. However, this shoe right here in particular seems to have been the one to gain them the most traction. I think rightfully so. These things right here are pretty awesome. The shoe itself is designed by former Nike designer Aaron Cooper. So if you're looking at these and you see something a little familiar, like say the clean swooping lines of the midsole on the Air Pippin 2s, or maybe you look at this big old TPU panel right here and think of the Zoom Flight 95s or 96s. Either way, there's some definite design elements in there that are familiar, yet there's a lot of new stuff in here that is fairly new, at least to performance, the traction specifically, and it ended up turning into one hell of a shoe on court. Now, if you wanted a ton of design inspiration as far as like the information that went on behind the design of this shoe, I highly recommend checking out Aaron Cooper's Instagram page. If you have not followed him already, you are missing out. You're not really a true sneaker lover, in my opinion at least, if you're not following the people that are creating this stuff. At least the ones that divulge all the cool information that you wish that you knew. The ones that just kind of post their new work, I get it. But Aaron Cooper will actually kind of like take you into his own mind and tell you exactly the thought process, why he did things, what things are. And in my opinion, I think that that is very cool. Now the outsole on these bad boys right here are really different compared to, well, really anything that you see on the market. I know that when you look at it, initially your first thought might go to a little bit of a Kobe 9 action there, maybe even the Jordan 11, and you would be right. The Air Jordan 11 and the Kobe 9 both use what was considered an anatomical design. This guy right here is no different. So when you look at this and you see a foot, well, you do see a foot, it's there. They definitely use some what most consider like pressure mapping and things like that, so you can see the two like potted areas where the main traction source is. Those are going to be your high stress zones where you apply the most pressure, and then it goes all the way through. So you have a lot of stuff right there covering you for all movements. What's different about this traction, and I will say like really different, I've used so many different shoes over the past 15 years, you know, doing what we do here, and this right here is one of the most unique, if not the most unique setup that I've ever used personally. If you go and take a look at these things a little bit closer, these individual nubs are designed after shark scales, but what they ended up doing while in motion, or while stopping motion or changing motion, however you want to describe it, you're changing of direction, stopping, all the basketball movements and stuff, you can feel this, at least I could, and it feels really fucking weird. Not in a bad way, just in a way where you're like, I've never experienced traction like this before, ever. So it was super noticeable, at least for me. So all of these little individual nubs right here, they grip the floor on top of that. They're kind of concave, so they peek out. Again, much like a shark scale, it's kind of serrated. But either way, when you're on the court with these guys, when you're in a linear motion, you don't really feel much of anything. It's when you start to shift side to side, or you go to stop and then move to a different direction, maybe hit a step back or two. A lot of times I felt this on defense actually, because that's where I'm moving a lot, trying to keep up with whoever it is that I'm guarding. You can feel all of these nubs working independently and in unison all at once. It's really weird. And then when you're on just basic basketball movements, like say you're just in there shooting around or warming up, whatever it is that you might be doing, and you're just trying to get your legs underneath you. Say you go at full speed and then you stop all of a sudden. If these nubs just happen to start catching and then still move a little bit with you, anything that it's not catching, the exterior portions, which are more of a radial pattern, will catch you afterwards. So it's got a smooth stop, if you will, you know what I mean? So like when we talk about say the Air Jordan 1 and I talk about traction so good it'll pop your hip out, and I'm not lying, it literally popped my hip out, and it's because you're moving so fast and then all of a sudden you go at a dead stop, and that's not good. You want to have a gradual stop, not something to where you're literally sliding and then you move on, but you want something that's going to catch you in a way to where you don't notice it, and that way you can move without anything hindering you underfoot. And again, that's what this guy did right there. On my pairs, they really did catch on to a lot of dust, but the way that all of those nubs really start to move, it didn't affect it whatsoever. Every once in a while I'd start wiping just because it's like a habit at this point. I've been doing it damn near my whole life, but it wasn't even necessary. So it's just one of those things where the traction alone is worth trying. Like it's just one of those things where it's like, you should probably try this. It's fucking weird. Weird in a good way, like Bill Nye the Science Guy kind of weird. Would I recommend something like this for outside? That's a big no. Those nubs being independent like that and moving around, while they will grip the floor really well, they'll probably wear down a lot easier as well. Obviously, if that's your only option as far as playing goes, go for it if that's what you want to do. The shoe retails for $150, so you know, entirely your choice. Now moving on up to the midsole, this is where things start to get really comfortable, like crazy comfortable. The cushioning for a shoe like this, and I don't mean for a shoe like this as in like, you know, $150 shoe, I just mean a shoe that you may have never heard of the brand before. The cushioning might surprise you. It's some of the smoothest and most fluid feeling cushion that I've used in a while. So the exterior that you see is actually a carrier. It's a firm EVA carrier. Inside of there's a Pebax foam. Pebax is such a weird material. Like, they use that in all kinds of stuff. It could be hard as a rock. It can be bouncy as hell. It could be smooth as butter. But anyways, that's what they used inside of the shoe. The one area where you're able to actually feel what's inside is right here at the outsole. There's a small little hole there, and if you like start touching in there, that foam in there is really interesting feeling. It almost feels like gel. And again, when you're in motion, it's just a really smooth ride. Good impact protection, but you still get plenty of court feel. Again, for a shoe that you may have never heard of the brand before, like, I'm literally impressed. Like, I can't believe it. We haven't even gotten to the materials yet. The materials might be my favorite, but the insole is crazy. This is a super critical insole. So not only do you have the EVA carrier, the Pebax interior, but you also have this insole that is a super critical foam, and it's comfortable, man. Like, you got layers upon layers. It's really cool. Now the materials, again, kind of like the cushion and actually like the traction, the whole shoe is very impressive. I cannot get over how impressive it is. It shouldn't be surprising just because of the people that worked on it, but it's still a brand that I've personally never even heard of. So it's like, whoa, that's the shoe. But anyways, the materials are a mix of modern and old. So you already know that that's like right up my alley. The white rand that you see is some of the nicest leather that I've seen mixed with a knit, or maybe even like put on a modern basketball shoe, period. Unless we're talking about like a premium shoe, like a Kobe, the one that we just talked about, the girl dads, like stuff like that. That's very nice materials. But as far as like straight up leather is concerned, this right here is where it's at. Like, this stuff is stupid comfortable. And I really have never seen it attached to knit before. Like, you've all seen like if you look at this again and you think like Curry 4, again, you wouldn't be wrong. But those shoes had a synthetic material glued to the knit. This, I don't even know how they did it. It looks like they rolled the edges and maybe stitched along the inside. But either way, it's a really nice material. It's very supportive, and I just love it. Like, I love leather. I love suede. I love nubuck. I love it on my basketball shoes, and we don't get that often. So for me personally, I always feel like I'm missing something out of my modern sneakers, but not in this one. And the rest of the upper is full on knit everything. So this is something that a lot of people, especially modern hoopers, are all used to. It is knitted in strategical areas. So the main body is a very tight and thick knit, and then underneath it, there's another layer that's glued to it. So it doesn't like lack structure or support. The tongue area and then the collar area is an open knit. So it's very stretchy. It's super easy to get into these guys. What I like to do is hold the front as well as the heel like together like this. And I just open it up and I slide my foot right in.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
The only thing to keep in mind is lace pressure, because there is no padding between the laces and your foot with that stretchy knit in the middle. So just be careful for that. The laces are, honestly, they're kind of weird. It's like a triangle. They're very thick. It's a very thick knit. It's very cool lace. They don't come untied, so I love that. But if you catch it on an angle where you're getting the point, I guess, of the triangle, the rounded part onto your foot, you can feel a little bit of lace pressure. So just move that, or just be careful while you're lacing them, just to try to avoid that. Now, as far as fit is concerned, I actually went true to size with my first pair.
Big mistake. Big. Huge.
And those didn't work out for me. I felt like they were just a little bit too loose. The support features that are inside the shoe just didn't really line up with my foot well, so I went back and went down half a size. It worked way better. They fit like a glove, so I would recommend going down half a size personally. Width-wise, I think that there's enough in there, especially if you do go true to size, to where it'll fit you just fine. This knit right here, especially at that collar and that the tongue area, if you will, the top of the foot, it moves open. So the combination between that, the regular knit, and then that really soft leather. Now, as far as support is concerned, those are the parts that are just done so beautifully, where when you look at the shoe, it flows with it so well, and I absolutely love it. So this midsole right here, you actually sit inside of it. So this thing cradles the out of your foot. First off, I love that. It's not used enough, not nearly enough. I think that should be a feature that is standard, especially on performance basketball. There's nothing worse than being right on top of a footbed and then sliding off of it while you're shifting or in motion. The KD11s are one of the first shoes that come to mind. I absolutely hated it. So sitting within a foot frame essentially, I think is one of the best and safest options. Yes, it adds a little bit of bulk to the shoe, but I mean, we're talking about performance here, right? Like not visuals, so go with it, like it works. On top of that, you do have the TPU side panels. There's one on each side, both medial and lateral. Surprisingly, they don't mess with the flexibility of the shoe whatsoever, so they don't feel cumbersome at all. Talking directly about the Jason Tatum 2s, those, I don't know. How did that even pass wear testing? I can't believe that he made it to the finals in those things. It's a shoe that just, I feel like I'm wearing a cinder block. Now, if there's anything that I was going to critique on the shoe, basically it's just right here, this tiny little spot in the forefoot. It sits under the foot just enough to where in certain movements, I felt like the grip was so good that it was kind of like sucking underneath my foot. And that's something that I wish wasn't there. I remember having that same problem with the original Nike Kobe AD. I don't know if you guys remember those. The ones that said zoom and depicted a ginormous zoom unit in there that wasn't actually there. So that thing's outrigger would really grip really well. Like the rubber was so tacky that when you would move and slide on lateral movements, it would suck underneath the shoe. Some people even had that tearing off their sneaker because it was happening so much. Now, while this isn't quite to that extreme, it's just enough to where when it does happen, I could feel it and it's a little bit of a nuisance. So that's the one thing where I would just flare that out just a little bit and then it should be all good to go. Other than that though, I think that this is a solid pickup, especially for the price, especially for everything that you get, not bad. Now, with all that being said, do we have a question of the day? Is it performance related?
It's not.
It's not? Okay.
It's just something short and fun.
Okay, let's go.
Would you rather be forced to yell every word you speak
Do I not do that already?
or be forced to say everything you're thinking out loud?
Ooh, do I not do that already? I know that I do that one. And while it doesn't get me in trouble, it definitely gets laughs or looks. So would I rather choose one or the other? That's the
which
question.
one? I don't think you yell every word you speak.
I feel like when I'm talking, like in the videos, like I'm projecting louder than what I normally. I'm normally at a really low register. Sometimes people can't even hear me, but I don't want to yell at people either. And I, by default, do that second thing way too often. And you know this.
Oh, I know this. But think about it, it would be even worse. Like you literally
I know, that's the
have a
thing. There's
filter.
stuff in my brain that doesn't come out, and I'd be worried if that did.
So you're gonna yell?
I mean, I suppose. Feel free to sound off below about that in the comment section. On top of that, did you grab a pair of these? If you did, let me know what you think about them on court. Do you agree with my traction assessment? Is it one of the most unique feeling traction setups ever? What do you think about the cushion? I think that was smooth as ice. It was awesome. Visually, I mean, come on, man, these things are fucking pretty. But sound off below, let us know. Definitely impressed, especially for a shoe that, I mean, a brand I've personally never heard of, so really cool. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on these, so I hope that you guys utilize that comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate you guys spending your time with us. We will catch you guys on the next one. So until then, y'all have a good one.